All right, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, as usual, we are in for a treat. You hit the play button so you know how we get down here. Whatever you may be going through, whatever challenges you may be having, whatever the obstacles you may be having in your life right now, we are here to indirectly tell you you are not going through those alone. Today, get ready to go to church again. Yeah, I know we've had quite a few people on that have taken us to church, and we are about to go to church again because I myself, as I was prepping for this interview, I was listening to him this morning. This man delivers keynotes. He is an author, has done a ton of work in the self-development space, and I just can't wait to kind of bring him on and dive into your story, man. So all that being said, Mr. Pastor, I'll call you Pastor Kevin Wayne Johnson. Welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you so much, and all the great work that you're doing in the trenches. I appreciate it.
Yes, and the great thing about it, so much of my work as a public speaker kind of stemmed from the sports world, just like you. I was a former football player, and you probably heard of Good Counsel High School, being that you're in Maryland, that turned into this major powerhouse. Now, I was there before we became nationally known, so it was in the trenches a lot like you were saying, and I was very shy, reserved kid until I got voted captain. And I would love to start the story off with, the story you told, and I mean, start kind of the interview off with the story you told about how you got into public speaking, right? You get cut from your basketball team. And then
Yes.
and the thing that really touched me was the fact that it was a teacher that said, hey, there are other things you can do. You can announce this thing. Because again, and I say this all the time, only 1% of you guys are making it to the NFL, the NBA. And there's going to be other things and other skills that you need to be learning along the way. So, let's start from there, man. And then just kind of get from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a combination of two stories in one. One is timing.
Yes.
And then number two, it's our individual and collective ability to see the potential in others.
Yeah.
And so it's those two stories that's wrapped up into one. So I'm the son of a U.S. Marine. And anyone who grew up in a military household can relate to the frequent moves. All right. Your mother, your father gets orders. It doesn't matter if they're enlisted, if they're a junior officer or a
Right.
flag officer or a general officer. They get orders. Family has to uproot and move. So it was hard to develop good relationships when every year or two you're being uprooted and you're moving. So my dad finally retired when I was in between my 10th grade year and my 11th grade year. I'm a teenager. I'm a young man who's thriving in high school.
Yeah.
I was on the junior varsity football team at Kellum High School in Virginia Beach,
Yeah.
developing some good friendships. And then, boom, he retires, and we have to uproot again to
Wow.
go back home to Richmond, Virginia. So I
Yeah.
want you to think about how a 16-year-old is impacted having to move yet again
Hmm.
at a time where he's thriving in high school.
Hmm.
And so I can't negotiate with a U.S. Marine. You just do what you're told.
I do.
So we end up coming to Richmond, and that's where family is. But I'm not going to high school with family. I'm trying to make new friends and
Hmm.
get involved with all the different activities. And so I landed Armstrong High School as a junior, and it's too late to try out for football because they already start spring practice. We moved that summer, so I can't approach the football coach. It's not an opportunity, but I can approach the basketball coach. Now,
Hmm.
as a 16-year-old, you don't really relate to the fact that the team is pretty much already formulated. Those that played on JV the year before are being moved up to varsity, or they're not playing at all.
Right.
Practice has already started. The head coach and the assistant coaches already have a relationship with the players and vice versa.
Mhm.
But he does allow five of us, he did allow to try out once school got started. None of us made the team.
Hmm.
Very dejected, felt isolated. Here I am new in this school. No one knows me. I don't know anyone. And back in those days, your name was put up on the locker as
Yeah.
someone who didn't make the team. So everybody knew you got cut.
It wasn't posted on Facebook?
No, not at that time. I'm telling my age.
They
So
didn't tell you via Facebook app, right?
exactly. So long story short, now the school session had already started.
Mhm.
And I was showing some promise in my English one-on-one class there in the 11th grade. Mrs. Atkins was my teacher, and she could see something in me that I couldn't see myself. I had a pretty good grasp on the English language. I was able to speak it well. I understood it, pronunciation, articulation, being able to understand the semantics and the grammatical and all of that good stuff, both writing and verbal.
Mhm.
And she actually approached the basketball coach on my behalf.
Oh
Not,
man.
I didn't know anything about this, saying, I have this young man in my class. He's new. He just arrived. He tried out for your basketball team and he didn't make it. And I'm noticing a little difference in him. He's
Mhm.
feeling isolated, feeling alone. And I know last year, the young man that did the announcements at the basketball games, he's moved on. You looking for somebody? He
Mm.
said, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have him. Yeah, bring him on in.
Mhm.
So unbeknownst to me, I asked a question. I went to the basketball coach, Mr. Bonaparte. I remember his name, Coach Bonaparte,
Right.
Armstrong High School. And sure enough, he had said yes. And so what happened is, long before I realized that I would be doing this for a living,
Right.
um, he allowed me to come in and sit behind the mic in the
Mhm.
gymnasium that held about 400 people,
Mhm.
to not only announce the home team and the away team, but also do the play-by-play.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I started to light up. I
Yeah.
started to get engaged. I felt included. I felt wanted. I felt needed.
Yeah.
And it was a great, great experience for me because Miss Atkins, at the right time in my life, paved the way because she saw something in me that a 16-year-old couldn't see in himself or herself. And that was really the beginning of what has taken place now over these last 50 plus years
Mhm.
in a lot of different venues at work,
Right.
as a trainer, as a teacher, as a pastor in ministry, as someone who pours into others,
Mhm.
as a speaker. I get paid to speak. All of that has a lot to do with gaining that confidence as an 11th grader, 16 years old, at Armstrong High School, because a teacher,
Mhm.
English one-on-one, saw something in one of her students that he didn't see in himself. And that's the beginning of the journey.
Yeah, so first of all, shout out to Miss Atkins. As a current teacher now, I look for those things, and it's stories like that that really do touch my heart because it's so important that everyone feels included. As teachers, I see so many educators in the business just really falling into a comfort zone. And if a kid's kind of just straying away, they just kind of shrug it off. But it's so important that you really look at those young men and young women and ask yourself, how can you help and do things that can ultimately, change their life, change the trajectory in their life. So,
Mhm.
one of the things that I learned when I was developing as a public speaker is how it translates to every area of your life. So, when you're doing this, you're 16 years old. What was that period like when it was time to transition from high school to college and then begin adulting? When you're interacting with people, and I'm not sure, did you actually go and play sports in college? What were a lot of those interactions like when it became time to go from that stage to, all right, become an adult, and now I got kids. I remember you were actually saying you got 1, 2, and 3 back to back, and
Right, right.
gave you struggle. So, speak to that transition a little bit.
Yeah, well, I like the word transition. I use that word a lot. It was quite natural because, again, that's why I said timing. The timing was such that it built so much confidence in me, and it gave me so much boldness, if you would, but at the same time, staying humble, not bragging or boasting, but just
Mhm.
having a lot of confidence that I would feel free walking up to people that I don't know and just starting a conversation.
Yeah.
Right. I would do well in my job interviews and I would end up getting the job. And each of these steps continue to boost confidence all along the way.
Mhm.
Going over to Virginia Commonwealth University as a freshman after I graduated from Armstrong High School, as a freshman, my freshman class appointed me to serve as the chaplain at
Oh,
Virginia Commonwealth University. I'm like, how in the world did that happen?
yeah, I was just
But
about, yeah, but it
yeah,
did it see
exactly.
something in you?
Well,
Right?
it's about noticing that I would be able to relate to everybody,
Hmm.
right? I was relating to the guys, I was relating to the girls, across ethnicities, across cultures,
Mhm.
and people saw that and they said, in terms of this office, We
Right.
think that you would be really, really good at that. And that gave me confidence in terms of prayer,
Yeah.
and my schoolwork. And one thing led to another. And as you know, as you move into your career and as you take on more responsibility, it requires that we be able to stand up and speak on our feet.
1000%.
Sometimes you have a script and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just get called into a meeting with 30 minutes advance notice and you just have to be able to prepare and just go with it.
You got to be ready to
And
go.
so that's kind of the story in a nutshell. That transition, it
Hmm.
just became very natural. The other piece of the story is something else happened in my senior year at Armstrong High School, going back to high school again. So now I'm 17 years old. 1 year later, I've moved on from Miss Atkins. Thank goodness for her and her heart. But now that I'm a senior, something else happens. And this time she has a conversation with the football coach
Hmm.
because the football coach has a lot of power at any given high school or any given college.
And
And then,
just a preference now, this is Northern Virginia and football is for real there.
oh, yeah, yeah.
This is remember the Titans town, Denzel, the whole thing. Then especially if I'm sure you already
Oh,
know
yeah,
the TC Williams there. It's a big deal out there. Just so you
yeah,
know.
yeah. And Highland Springs was a
Yep.
powerhouse down in Virginia.
This is
And
before all that
so,
ESPN ranking stuff. So
so they collectively got together again without Kevin Johnson knowing anything about it. And they said, listen, we need a powerful, projecting, confident sounding voice
Mhm.
in the press box at City Stadium at our football games.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep, absolutely. So I did not play high school football. I tried out for high school basketball, but got cut.
Mhm.
And sure enough, the person that was there the previous year had moved on, and Kevin Johnson's name came up as the voice behind the microphone in
Mhm.
the press box at the football games. And we played at City Stadium.
Right.
We didn't have a stadium at the school. So City Stadium seats 12,000 people.
Wow.
And so I did the homecoming game and all of the home games that we had.
Mhm.
And you know, can you imagine a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old
Right.
finding someone other than their parents that
Mhm.
has all of this faith and trust and confidence in them?
Yeah.
Not only did I not want to let them down,
Mhm.
but it just renewed my faith in terms of what I could accomplish and what I could do.
Right.
And so that's the story. And like I said, all along the way, even today,
Yeah.
that confidence is still there as we move forward as a means of using our voice
Mhm.
to pour into others to be the spark that catches them on fire.
Yes, and I'm so glad you shared that because one of the things that I've actually committed to doing in this past is about a month now is I'm in church every single Sunday. And
Hmm.
for me, this walk of faith has been incredibly challenging because having a name like Aswan Cruikshank, and I didn't necessarily grow up in a religious household, I went to a Catholic school, I'm used to being judged. And I've been around people that have grown up in the church and I've been judged. I've been called all sorts of names. So finding a church home has been something that has been a great for the past month has been just a great kind of a great journey for me. And I think the video I posted today, I think I've actually found shout out to Craig Rochelle at Life Church. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because you do an incredible job of taking kind of God's word and merging it with kind of the secular world and making it
Hmm.
so people like myself don't look at a walk of faith as something you got to be overly religious or something that where you got to be, oh, this is my team, this is my religion, and everybody else does this. You do it in a very non-judgmental way. So
Hmm.
traveling this journey and as you're moving forward with life, and again, you graduate, you don't have Miss Atkins there. I know that I have had plenty of Miss Atkins to where now I'm in the real world, I don't have you there and I got to go make my own moves. Kind of speak a little bit about how God kind of led you into, and again, I know as an entrepreneur like yourself, though there have been days probably in those 30 years where you're working in federal government where you're like, look, I can do my own thing.
Hmm.
Same time,
Yeah.
but you got kids, you got mouths to feed, you got bills to pay, and stuff like that. So, kind of speak on how God, like your relationship with God a little bit, and how people can how people can really just get to know Him and
Yeah.
travel that road.
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked that question. So two points, two teaching points for all of us that are listening. Two teaching points. Let me start with the golden rule. The golden rule is something that is universally known, regardless of your faith, and even those that say they are faithless. But the golden rule is something that we all know. And here's how I articulate it when I'm in front of people. And it goes like this: the time is always right to do what's right. And that's something that all audiences can relate to. Children relate to that, teenagers, adolescents, young adults, and then adults across ethnicities and across cultures, because people know good and well what I'm talking about.
1000%.
Even if you have to stand all by yourself, the time is always right to do what's right. And so that's New Testament right there in the book of Matthew and chapter number 7. When we get into the golden rule, just treat people the way you want to be treated. It is not hard to do. And we don't necessarily have to watch what other people are doing, but just be true to yourself. The second thing that I do to bring the scripture to reality without necessarily having to quote scripture is this: wherever you go, there you are. So it's about being consistent. It's about being your true self. If we call ourselves men of faith, women of faith, if we call ourselves Christian, then we are to follow the precepts and the doctrines that we are taught. And wherever I go, my neighborhood meeting, my workplace, my social or civic organization, my family reunion, out with my neighbors, at work, at church, wherever I go, there I am. So let's be consistent, and let's be authentic and genuine everywhere we go, because guess what? What we do and what people see speaks much louder than the words that we say.
Right.
And those are the two lessons that I use, regardless of what audience I'm in, that are consistent and help the scriptures to become true. And then I often take breaks in between when I say it to make people really think. It'll hit them, and they'll think about it. You're right. No matter where I go, there I am.
Right.
So let's be consistent. Let's be honest. Let's be truthful. Let's be men and women of character. Let's be authentic and genuine, because people have good discernment. They can see through us. They don't say anything, but they can see through us.
Right.
And that's the approach that I take to everything that I'm doing. So I can be at a church in front of 500 people in the pulpit with a microphone, but I'm that same guy when I'm on a stage and I'm doing a keynote in front of 10,000 people, talking about communication or talking about influence, or if I happen to be in a classroom with 10 people, just having a conversation around growth and personal or professional development. I'm the same Kevin Johnson, because wherever I go, there I am. And the time is always right to do what's right.
Right. And that's something I love that you break it down in that simple terms, because kids learn that. As a kid, you start to recognize, because when you get to a certain age, you've met enough adults, and then you hear a lot of people make a lot of excuses about, well, I grew up in this area, so I don't have to do this, or, my parents aren't here. There's so many excuses you can give. But nowadays, you have the resources, you have the internet, you have people that can be mentors to you. You know right from wrong. There's no excuse. You know right from wrong. You know exactly what you're doing. And you got to own it, number one, when you do things wrong. Again, all of us have made mistakes, but when you are where you are, this is on you. All right, this is on you. It's nobody else. And it's something that really puts the onus on the person. And I bring that up because I remember I was just telling a colleague of mine, look, I'm about to interview someone who was a pastor. And her first question was, well, what religion? Baptist? Is he Episcopalian? Is this? It's like, I think he's just about doing the right thing. I think he's just about
That's it.
non-denominational. Just get whatever it is you like. Make sure you're on the right path. And I bring all that up because it's not like you're without, like a lot of times people can see you and they see the finished product. But when you mention the birth of your sons, and listen, I'm aspiring now to become a father. I'm still in the finding a wife and aspiring a father phase, but it's stories like yours that really make me so, look, I better be patient and make sure I have all my duckies in a row, because you have a 1 year. I was trying to think about what that may feel like. All right, you have a 1-year-old, then you get another one, and then you get a 3-year-old, like 3 in a row. And then the middle one is autistic. So now, as a teacher who's taught autistic children, I know the challenges that come with that as well. It's like, how'd you how'd you make it? I'm sitting there in my job, like, how did he make it through this? My goodness. So, speak to that a little bit because obviously you did, and obviously you got to give shout out to the wife too. But man, that's a lot of stuff to kind of get to, and it's easy for you to make the excuse and just give up on it and say, look, I'm done with this. This life stuff is too hard.
Yeah, yeah. Well, on the surface, it does look hard, and I never say it's easy,
Right.
but I do believe in scripture when the word says that God will not put on us more than we can bear,
Yeah.
right? And so it's just a matter of just being understanding, loving,
Hmm.
supporting, advocating, negotiating on behalf of, fighting for. That's
Hmm.
all we're doing. Because again, it goes back one more time to the time is always right to do what's right.
Hmm.
When we're in the midst of people who have a mental or physical disability, just using my youngest son as an example, at the age of 2, he was diagnosed with autism. One of the things that we can do is now stand up and fight for them
Mm.
because they can't necessarily fight for themselves.
Yeah.
And you'll be pleasantly surprised at how much fulfillment that brings
Mm.
because we're serving other people. And as a nation, we've gotten away from that. America has gotten away from that, where, and it's not necessarily anyone's fault. A lot of it has to do with technology, the advent of technology. Everybody has a smartphone,
Yeah.
and we're very, very distracted as a society.
Hmm.
But I tell people all the time, especially in talking about this mental health issue, that if we focus more on others and their needs,
Hmm.
you're gonna be so fulfilled in life, and that's how we were able to get through it. So our oldest son came into our life when he was 3 months old. We adopted him. He was born to very, very young parents,
Hmm.
and they had good counseling and good advice, and they gave him up for adoption, praying that a loving family would come
Hmm.
and take care of him. And we did. He was born premature. He was only 2 pounds 4 ounces.
Oh,
But
wow.
I told my wife, I said, let's not let this little fella go through the foster care system,
Hmm.
because in our nation, he's not going to get the best. He's just not. All the data is there. Yeah, there are some good care families, but there's also a lot of them that aren't. So let's bring him into our life. And I named him after me. He doesn't have my middle name. He has my wife's maiden name as his middle name.
Hmm.
But he's now 28, doing well. Started out at Morehouse College after high school,
Hmm.
um, and is doing well in his career. My middle son then came 11 months later.
Right.
We brought Kevin home from the adoption agency after meeting the people and signing off on the paperwork.
Hmm.
And then a week later, my wife Gail, says, I'm sick. I need to go to the hospital.
Oh man.
And she came back from the hospital. She's pregnant.
What a
so
day.
so
What a that
here
must
comes the second son, 11 months later.
all
And
right.
then 15 months later, here comes Cameron. We were living in New Jersey at the time, so he was born in Princeton, New Jersey. So they were all back to back to back. That's why I laugh at the story. When Kevin was 5, his little brother was 4, and his little brother was 3. So that's just the way it's been all
Right.
of our lives.
Right.
But it's fun. It's exciting. It
Mhm.
keeps us young. But you have to have the right attitude and the right mindset to look at it as either joy
Yeah.
or a challenge. Now,
Right.
when you hear the word joy, it picks you up.
Hmm.
When you hear the word challenge, it kind of puts you on the defensive, like you got to get ready for a big fight.
Exactly.
And I just didn't find that to be the case. I declared to all of my sons and my wife from the time that they were ankle high
Mhm.
that we are going to have peace in the Johnson household.
Right.
It's not negotiable. We're not going to have any drama. There's not going to be a whole lot of fighting, yelling and screaming and running around.
Hmm.
We're going to all have peace in this home because it's good for your mental and your physical well-being going forward. And what I was doing was teaching them as little fellows to be good husbands and good fathers when you get to that point, so you can share with your family the importance of having a peaceful household. And that's just something that I demanded, I commanded, I lived it, and we all enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made that decision and you made it clear that that's what it was. It was not as much of a challenge as joyous as it was, and taking joy in the little things, making it through a day, or having one, make it through a meal, and seeing them, just grow, every little things that they do to grow every single day. And I have to ask you now, because you grew up in the DMV area, you spent 30 years in the DMV area like I did. We're in a political season. I'm not going to ask you who you vote for, but I do want to hear, because a lot of the stuff I hear about politics is about one person or one female or one situation. But what I always tell people when it comes to politics is none of them are going to help you if you're not willing to help yourself. If you're not willing to run your own household, if you're not willing to have ideals and things that you want to run on your own, none of them are going to do anything for you. So when it comes to the work that you've done in the government, I know you were involved with several campaigns and you've met these people and all that. What would you say is the thing that you take away the most from your 30-year career, and then being able to branch out and be a speaker, author, and do your thing do what you're doing on your own?
Yeah, so I'll answer it two ways. I'll start out with the politics first. So I don't necessarily look at the person per se. Now,
Yeah.
this is city, county, state, and national. This is how I go about in terms of who I vote for. I listen to the overarching message.
Yes.
I believe that the message that we heard at the overarching level from Clinton, going way back when I was supporting that administration, him and Al Gore, was all about making sure that we help the American people. The message that I heard from our 44th president, Barack Obama, yes, we can, right? Inclusivity, yes, we can. The message that I'm hearing now from our vice president, let's move forward. We need a president for all of the people. I listen to those types of messages to help me to determine which way I want to go. And that's also how I ran my career in the federal government, because I was really blessed and fortunate to have been a frontline leader, a mid-level leader, and a senior level leader, working with civilians, working with contractors, and working with our military, enlisted junior officers, flag officers, and general officers at military commands, and then also in the Department of Defense and the Department of Treasury. So it was really diverse. I had a chance to work with all kinds of people, most of whom were good. It's no different than anybody else's experience in the workplace. There are some knuckleheads, but by and large, good people who want to support you and help you and kind of show you the way. And I had that. So in terms of managing my career, I was always in a position where I could feed and pour into others. Above and beyond being their supervisor and monitoring their performance and sitting down face to face and giving them their performance evaluation, I had a chance to offer resources and tools and systems and training and developmental opportunities so that they could be the best that they could be. I don't want anybody within my sphere of influence to have an opportunity and not be prepared. I would rather them to be prepared and not have the opportunity. Because I've been in both. I've had opportunities, but I wasn't prepared, and I took the opportunity and ran into a brick wall. That's a learning lesson. But I had other opportunities where I was very much prepared, and I was able to walk into it and knock it out the park. And so I've done both, and so that's how, even today, post-retirement, that's why I'm so laser focused on pouring into people, training, teaching, coaching, and mentoring to help them to be the best leader that they can be. But it's not just that, it's their personal and their professional development. Because when you're at home, you need to be on the job. When you're at work, you need to be on the job. Again, wherever you go, there you are. So make a difference wherever you are. And it all starts at home. Making a difference at home gave me the credibility now to go out into the workplace and make a difference. But if I'm not doing well at home, then more than likely I'm not going to end up doing well in the workplace.
So when you speak on the resources that you help people get to, because that's a lot of times That's what we hear when people are struggling, when they're going through whatever it is they're going through, whether it's business, whether it's personal life, whether it's romantic. They're always pointing to a lack of, I don't have this, so I don't, I'm not able to do what this person did. I even actually coached at Blake High last year. I was in Maryland. I coached at Blake High School, and they're obviously not good counsel, right? But I coached there because I wanted to kind of make a name for myself, and even though I played a good counsel, I still wanted to, show I was proven in the business. And the mindset that a lot of these young boys had, and the majority of them didn't have fathers, they were raised in broken homes and all that stuff. But their mindset was, oh, you went to good counsel, you went to DeMatha, you went there, so that's why you got this scholarship. That's why if you look at it, some of them, not all of them, obviously, but some of them, and the one I'm thinking of in particular, were just as talented as all those guys. But because he was at Blake, he blew off his academics. He's like, oh, I'm just going to go to junior college. Obviously, went to junior college, never actually made it, never actually panned out. When you talk about resources, how do you actually get it to the people that need it, which are, the young boys like I'm referring to, or the young people? What is your strategy when it comes to that?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, and that's something that needs to be unpacked at a very, very a much deeper context.
Yeah.
But I always tell people it's about the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
See, people are more apt to receive from us, whatever it might be, advice, counsel, direction, resources, when we have a relationship. And I believe that the best way to formulate relationships with people is to just have an informal conversation about a topic that interests them.
Yeah.
But so how do you know what interests them? By having a conversation. And it can be very informal. Doesn't have to be deep, doesn't have to be philosophical, doesn't have to be theological, doesn't have to be long. People just want to know that you give a care.
Yeah.
And so I would do things very, very simple and very, very fundamental, like asking people, how you doing today? Good morning, good afternoon. How things going? How can I support? By the way, you did a great job the other day on that project. I have another one for you as well, because I think you can do just as well. It's the little things like that, where over time, when you build that relationship, that leads to trust. Now, when I have these resources that I want to provide for you, or at least recommend and suggest to you, you're more apt to receive it because we have a relationship. You mentioned a little bit earlier about sports, and I don't usually talk about it in these forums unless the host brings it up. So you brought it up. So as you know, we're in the infancy stages of the National Football League. So we're about to finish off tonight, 2 games tonight, week 3 of the NFL. And I want you to think about, there's a couple of teams that are undefeated, and there's a couple of teams that haven't won any games yet.
I'm a Commanders fan, so I thought you were going to bring them up, and it's been rough watching them.
No, I'm not going to go.
I thought you were going to bring that up. Please don't talk about these dudes.
Yeah, I'm not going to name names, but there's a young man that we're all pulling for, who had a rough time in the Windy City. And now he's got a new lease on life, and he's now in the Steel City. And he went from a team where it was very, very difficult to win. And of course, all of the blame goes on the QB. To now he's in a place where he wasn't even slated to start, and he's doing well. I can guarantee you behind the scenes that a lot of that has to do with relationships. The coach, the coaching staff, the teammates, and probably even the fans, they have developed a relationship that has renewed his confidence and led him to believe that, oh, I'm included. They actually want me here. They're supporting me, and it can make all the difference in the world. Now, I'm not saying that he's the reason that they're undefeated, but he is the quarterback, and he gets the credit or he gets the blame, either way. And that's just one small example. When you talk about teamwork, when you talk about what can we do to give people the right resources, identifying the potential in others, elevating people, building them up, it makes a big difference. So people will be more receptive to receive any suggestions and recommendations that we have around resources when we take the time to develop the relationship, because the relationship is the precursor to trust, and it goes a very, very long way.
Yes, I'm glad you brought him up because that particular quarterback that you're talking about, I remember, he was big time high school recruit. He committed to Georgia and then transferred to Ohio State. And though I am a Michigan fan, I do have to give him his props as a player. But one of the things that was shown in his documentary was how he grew up, his father and stuff like that. And I remember there was a scene where he was getting his haircut and the barber was telling him, look, just listen to your father, man. Listen to your father no matter what you do. The father was a police officer. He was in the home and he was on him, like on him with didn't let his head get too swell, anything like that. So when you get picked in a situation, and even the quarterback, I thought you were actually going to talk about the quarterback that's currently with the Chicago Bears, who's from Maryland, actually, but it doesn't matter. Like you may be going through that, but if you find yourself in a right situation, and even in the NFL, again, it's all about the relationship. It's all about the organization. It's all about the coaches and the relationship you have with that city and what that city is all about. So I always love when people bring these football analogies up because that really actually gives me goosebumps because of how much I've been dedicated to the game and how much the game has actually taught me. But I do want to give you the opportunity a little bit to talk a little bit about your business, your books, what like when it comes to your world and what you're doing now, how do you sort of serve people in a way in which anyone is listening, they can reach out and kind of, pick your brain or bring you in to speak or get your books and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So organizations hire the Johnson Leadership Group, which is the name of the company, LLC. I'm the founder and CEO. We are now in year 6 to develop their leaders. And when I say develop that leader, that means training, that means leadership assessments, that means coaching, that means mentoring. And then I'm also a speaker on the topic as well, all things leadership, because
Right.
I firmly believe that better leaders help to make the world a much better place. Because above and beyond what we learn about leadership in school, we also teach about the importance of the heart. From the heart, a leader is more apt to show respect and care and empathy and compassion and value for other people, because we see people as more than just workers. We see
Mhm.
them as people.
Yeah.
And we all have issues and circumstances and concerns that we're dealing with. Many people are caring for older adults,
Mhm.
and older parents, and many people are raising young children. And then there's a lot of us in between of the spectrum. And how we go about leading those people is the difference maker in terms of the productivity and the performance of any given organization. So whether it's government, corporations, churches, nonprofits, or academic institutions, all of those different venues in the marketplace hire us to come in and offer the training and the executive coaching that we have. So whether it's a frontline leader who's new to leadership, someone at the mid-level that maybe they've been doing it for about 10 years, but they need some refreshment, if you would.
Mhm.
And then those that are at the senior level, they've been doing it 25 or more years, but they can always learn something new. That's who we are, and that's what we do. And then in conjunction with that, I'm also an author. Now I've been writing books for 23 years. I have 20 plus titles as a principal author
Mhm.
and a contributing author. But in this space, it's all about leadership, and leadership with a servant's heart. That's the title of my current book series, nonfiction book series. And I emphasize the heart, because I want all leaders to know that being empathetic and being compassionate is not weakness. What it is, it shows that we're human. And
Yeah.
that's what people are looking for in their leader. So
Mhm.
the books are available everywhere that books are sold. I just had a conversation this weekend with somebody, and I did not know, but the books are even available in Walmart. I didn't know that. I knew they were available with Barnes and Nobles because we partner with Barnes and Noble for our national book tour.
Right.
And I knew they were available in Target because they sent me a note, but I did not know that they were available in Walmart. So I
Right.
need to I need to update my PR
Mhm.
team and let them know that, hey, they're available in Walmart as well. So yeah, but they're available everywhere that books are sold. If you go into a bookstore
Right.
and you ask for it and you don't see it on the shelf, just tell the cashier and they can go into the system and order it, and
Right.
you'll have it in just a couple of days.
So
But
you went the traditional publishing route with all of them?
yeah, so with the exception of a couple, I publish my own books.
Mhm.
because I'm able to retain 100% of the
Yeah.
copyright,
Right.
of the revenues, and any of the trademarks that happen to be associated with my book, because I knew I would be in it for a while, and that's why I use my middle name as well. So I use Kevin Wayne Johnson
Mhm.
in my business and with my books, because Kevin Johnson is a very, very common
Mhm.
and popular name, and I didn't want people to get confused. Which Kevin Johnson are you talking about? So I use my full name, Kevin Wayne Johnson.
Yeah, that's always that's always something nowadays where you got to ask the traditional or the self-publishing route. I think the main thing though before you actually do it is make sure you have your audience, make sure you know exactly what topic that you're going to be covering before you get too into that, because it's important that you get it to the people, that you touch the people. And when
Hmm.
talking about leadership again, I can't tell you how thankful I am that you're doing this work, because I myself have been burnt so many times with poor leadership. Poor
Yeah.
leadership, that poison and that mindset in which you have people who are just kind of do whatever. They don't take it seriously. They don't realize how there are people underneath you that are depending on you to make great decisions. And you have to, as a leader, even if it's not your personality, you got to get out of your comfort zone and you have to grow. Just because your title says you're a leader does not mean you need to stop growing. You have to keep growing because the people underneath you are depending on you. So, all that being said, what's the best way? Where do you normally send people to get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to the website
Mhm.
www.thejohnsonleadershipgroup.com,
Mhm.
and then the email address is kevin@thejohnsonleadershipgroup.com. Either one of those two ways would be perfect. We have a company policy where we respond within 24, within
Right.
48 hours, within 2 days, 48 hours,
There you go.
to any inquiries that come in. So I look forward to hearing from the audience. Anything at all that we can do to support and serve, just reach out and touch, and we'll be happy to do so.
Right, and we will include all that in the show notes as well. So it's the Kevin Wayne Johnson. The final thing I do to close out all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are 16 years old. You just moved. You just found out you got cut from your basketball team. I want you to pretend that that young man has come into the Zoom room. This was before you found the speaking and all that. This is that feeling of I have absolutely nothing. So pretend that that 16-year-old version of Kevin has come into the Zoom room. Give him some words of encouragement, and we will officially close.
Well, I would say keep your chin up. Life is full of challenges, but listen, whether it's a mountaintop experience or a valley experience, you can do it. Believe in yourself, and others will see that, and then they'll start to believe in you as well. And then watch those doors start to open.
Hey, man, it's always the right time to do what's right, and you are where you are. I told y'all we going to church today, brother.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
just as moved as I was this morning when I listened to you. So, all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.